So I'm here with Michael Lowry. He's from the Weather Channel. He was here for our North Florida AMS NWA banquet on Saturday. And first off, I just want him to describe his FSU experience.
Oh, wow. It's awesome to be back at Florida State University. This is a place that I still call home to this day. I went to school here. I was here for 7 years. I did my undergraduate degree. I did my master's degree in meteorology as well. And that really the education that I had here in Tallahassee was the backbone for everything that I do now at the Weather Channel and everything that I've really done since. And not just what I did here at the university, but also the experience that I had outside of the university. I was in emergency management, and I worked at the State Emergency Operations Center here, which is down in Southwood area. So Tallahassee to me was a home, and still today my family lives here. My brother lives here, and he recently had his first child at Tallahassee Memorial. So it's always great when I can come back here and see my old stomping grounds.
Absolutely. Now, just describe some of the positions you held before getting into the Weather Channel.
Well, like I said, I did my formal education here. While I was an undergraduate, I did some research as an undergraduate research assistant. It really taught me the coding and the scripting and the technical skills that I still use in my job today. One of the other things I did while I was here, as I mentioned, sort of alluded to, was my time in emergency management. So I worked with the State Emergency Management Office. I started there, actually volunteered there when I was younger, I think I was a sophomore, maybe a junior in college when I started volunteer work there. And then I met some folks who basically created a position for me there, a full-time type position as a meteorologist in the State Meteorological Support Unit. And this was going into 2004, 2005 hurricane seasons. And those of you who were in Florida, these aren't years that you forget. And we had an incredibly busy, active few hurricane seasons. And I was fortunate to be working in emergency management, to actually sitting down and when we had to make these calls on whether or not we were evacuating millions of people. That's really a local call when you make those evacuation calls. But I'm there working as a liaison between the Weather Service and the Hurricane Center and the local emergency management offices, and coming up basically with what we want to do for these real-time decisions, and sort of seeing where the rubber meets the road was pretty impactful thing for someone that was just kind of starting off in meteorology. So that's basically what I did when I was here in Tallahassee. And then graduating, once I actually graduated, moving up to DC, and I worked for the Department of Defense up there for a few years. And while I was there, I was sort of a tropical expert for Department of Defense. And I did a lot of storm surge modeling. And storm surge is that ocean water that's pushed to shore by the strong winds of a hurricane. And this was after a lot of the big storm surge events in the mid-2000s, like the Katrinas, even Ike that hit Texas in 2008. And that sort of springboarded me to where I eventually ended up at the National Hurricane Center in their storm surge group. And I did a lot of work with storm surge research and in operations. I did forecasts for several storms: Irene, Isaac, Earl. We had quite a few storms when I was down there. And then also built these new storm surge products, was a technical lead on these new products that are coming out actually for the first time this year and next year.
And now, how did you end up in broadcasting?
Yeah, I ask myself that every day. How did I end up in broadcasting? The Weather Channel reached out to me. It was sort of a cold call from the Weather Channel. I quite honestly, I'd never considered broadcast as a career path for me, but I gained a lot of experience and perspective in doing things that weren't traditional meteorology per se. For example, my time in emergency management, I didn't know the first thing about emergency management when I went into emergency management, but I worked with some of the best emergency managers in the world. Craig Fugate, who's now FEMA director, was my very first boss, and Craig has been a great mentor to me. He taught me a lot about emergency management, and I think I learned from literally the best emergency management in the country. And it sort of felt that way just throughout my career. And so having an opportunity to go into broadcast, and to me, when I was at the Hurricane Center, what I found was the broadcasting is really the bow on the forecast. It's completing that forecast with actually communicating it to viewers in terms that they can understand and that they can make decisions for themselves and their family. And it was a challenge, I thought, to me, because I wasn't somebody who was familiar with broadcasting and actually getting a message out to the viewer. And so it was an opportunity when they came to me about sort of building their tropical program at the Weather Channel. Dr. Rick Knabb, who's the Hurricane Center director, he was actually still at the Weather Channel at the time. And, just talking to him and seeing what he did while he was there sort of convinced me that, you know what, as much as I love working in the Hurricane Center, and I did, it was one of the best jobs in the world, I could be a real asset and a partner to them by being in the media. And so that was a huge selling point for me. And so that's how I ended up where I am today.
Great. Well, thanks so much for your time, Michael.
You got it. Thanks, you.